Welcome or welcome back. Yeah, so today I'm just going to do my January wrap up, which is obviously a little bit late, but yeah, if I'm a little bit out of it at any point, I dislocated my foot recently, like two of the bones at the side of my foot, so I'm in quite a lot of pain, so if I'm even more loopy than usual, that's why. But yeah, let's just go. So the first book I read in January was something that I started in December, and it was These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. This is a Romeo and Juliet retelling that's set in 1920s Shanghai, and the setting was so much fun. It was so interesting. It was just amazing. It was really well done, and it wasn't too, like, it didn't feel like it followed the script of the play exactly, which was really interesting because obviously it had like key components, but it was something fresh and new. It follows two gangs, and there are two people. It's that trope of like a second chance almost romance, but like new evil has been awoken in the city of Shanghai, and these two like opposing gang leaders have to come together to work together. It was really good. I think I gave it 3 stars. It was an enjoyable book, but I think I found that I didn't entirely connect at points, and I wanted more of the fantasy element, so I put it down as a romance actually, because it just didn't feel like there was that much fantasy, but I mean, I'm like hardcore with the fantasy, so really enjoyable. The second book, These Are Violent Ends, is coming out this year I think, or next year, so I'm really excited for that. Yeah, it was good, enjoyable. I would recommend it. I would say it's an easy read, nothing too difficult. The romance was enjoyable, and it was that classic like enemies to lovers, which is fun. The characters were great, and the setting was really rich, and also I read up on the way that the author had decided on specific names. There was a big thing about that, where people having a go at her about choosing Roma as the name instead of Romeo, which is just like, it was like people were going for the author for it, even though it is like the Russian diminutive of it, whatever. So really good, recommend it. I can't wait for the second one. Yeah. The next book I read was Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. This book was incredible. Major trigger warning for very graphic descriptions of self-harm and depression, very fraught family relationships, but it was really well done, really beautifully written. The world was so vivid and the story was so interesting. It was one of those books where I was sat there like, how did she come up with this? It was really incredible, and I was actually quite pleasantly surprised, especially because it's only like 320 pages, but there's so much packed in here, and the characters are so vivid, and it's amazing. It's a thriller, and basically it follows someone who, she's a journalist, and she has to go back to her town where she was like raised and born and stuff, because a case has come up, and her like newspaper leader has sent her to go and do that, go and cover that case. And when she's there, she kind of ends up having to pick apart her family life and like her family mysteries, her relationship with her mother and her stepsister, her half-sister. It's really interesting, a very strange story, but it's very real, very raw, and yeah, it's really good. There is a TV show of this. I don't know what like cable network it's on or whatever, but it's got Isla Fisher in it and some other like amazing, the acting is immaculate, so as soon as I finished it I watched that, and I think I binged it in like one night. It was just incredible. I highly recommend this. I think I gave it 4 or 5 stars. I'll put it on the screen because I can't remember. Next I read Acotar. So I kind of went on an Acotar like binge fest over these 2 months to catch up for when Akamath came out. So I read this one first, obviously, because it's the first book. It was good, it was interesting, but it just felt like there was so much description, and I love description, so that's saying something. But it felt like for the first like 200 pages, not much was happening. Basically, when a woman is hunting for her family, she ends up killing a wolf, but it turns out it was actually a high fae. And this is in a world where it's actually based off of the UK map, so that's fun. But the mortal lands and the fae lands are separated by an enormous wall. The fae are known to be like wicked to the humans and things. So when this happens, this fae comes and takes her because she killed a high fae, and that's, you know, a crime. And she has to go into the fae lands, and a series of events unfurls from that. Yeah, so it was really interesting. Character Feyre was alright. She got a lot more interesting in the last 100 pages. Tamlin, fucking yeah, tampon. I just like, he was such a wet blanket. Okay, skip this bit, I'll put time to skip to if you've not read it. But so many memes about people who are like, if I was Feyre in Acotar, like the whole plot would have failed because I'd have fallen in love with Lucian rather than Tamlin, because Lucian had like character. The scenes with him were amazing. Scenes with Tamlin, ugh. Yeah, so it was good. The ending was great, where I was like, oh my gosh, and I basically ordered the next 2 books straight away, shamefully. Yeah, it was good. I'd recommend it. I'd definitely say the series gets better. This is like, yeah, I think I gave it 3.5 stars. Yeah, it was pretty good still, and I love Sarah J Maas's writing. So then I read the selected poems of Tom Gunn and Ted Hughes. This was good. Obviously it was like a very short book, but it was interesting, especially given the era they were writing in. I studied quite a lot of this like style of poetry, as most people did in England, but Ted Hughes's stuff was much better than Tom Gunn's, personally. One of the poems in here had racial slurs in it from Tom Gunn, and I don't know if that was a large part of the reason it just threw me off. It was also, I found that his poems, I didn't really give a shit, if I'm being honest. There wasn't much of a story behind them. It kind of seemed like shopping list poetry, which sounds incredibly harsh. But Ted Hughes' work is amazing, and obviously there were poems of Ted Hughes' that I just wasn't as intrigued by, but by and far, that's right, yeah, well, there. I much preferred his stuff. Yeah, my particular favourites were Cleopatra to the Asp, Witches, so good, and The Otter, which I think he does a lot of nature related ones, and like ones to do with months and like the vibe you get from a month, which was quite cool. Yeah, so I recommend Ted Hughes' work. Read Tom Gunn's if you want to, but yeah, I won't do it again. Then I read Akamath. This book, the mental health rep with Sarah J Maas, incredible. I'm not going to talk about the plot because obviously it's the sequel to Acotar, so I don't, like, it's a bit spoilery, but it was just amazing. I like binged it in like a day and a half or something, which is really good because I'm a fairly slow reader. It was amazing, incredible. The relationships, mental health rep, yeah, it made me cry, and that's saying something. I don't really cry that much when it comes to books, except for Sarah J Maas apparently, because she seems to have broken me. Sarah J Maas and Of Mice and Men, I will fucking die. But it was really great. The relationships were so vivid, the world building was amazing, the plot was pretty good. The one thing I'm going to say that I don't think it's a spoiler at all, but I want more Tarquin because that man is fucking gorgeous. He is like, his soul, his body, he is stunning, and I need more of him. Yeah, if the Summer Court's looking for anyone to come and, you know, help, I'm here. Sorry, I just realised something that I didn't talk about. Okay, if you have read this or don't care about spoilers, then please continue watching. But if you haven't and you don't want spoilers, skip, like, just go. Because I need to talk about chapter 55. Like, what the fuck? Everyone's freaking out about it and saying that it's like so hot and like, oh my god. And obviously I know it's kind of like a YA new adult book, but I don't even really remember what happened in it. I think that the chapter when they're in the, I can't remember which chapter it is, but when they're in the Court of Nightmares, I think that chapter is so much better. That chapter is like, that's a good chapter. But this chapter 55, I couldn't really tell you what happened, and I was so disappointed because like whenever you go on book anything really, that is the first thing that comes up, and people are like, oh my god, that chapter, and I was like, but is it though? Then I read Illuminae by J. Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. This was really, it was really interesting. It's like a mixed media book where it's made up of transcripts and medical reports. It's a file, hence it's part of the Illuminae files, that's the series. It's set in space, and basically it's in the future where some kind of attack has happened on a planet and people have had to flee and they're shuttled off in spaceships, but along the journey, like it's not like the problem's resolved straight away, and it follows a second chance romance again between two teenagers, and they're on separate ships, and the romance was really cute, really good. I liked their dynamic, it was really entertaining. I loved the formatting, except for towards the end. Towards the end you get a bulk of like the same stuff. If you've read it, you know what I mean. I'm not going to say it because it's a bit of a spoiler, but it's like the same style of report, and it wasn't just that. There was something about it felt a bit repetitive, like the story was kind of, we were like revisiting the same point again and again and again, which can be fun, but I just personally, like the end was a bit sluggish to get through. Ending was great, left on a cliffhanger, and I will definitely read the next book, which I think, is it like Oblivion or something was the second one? I don't know. But yeah, I gave this 3.5 stars, I think. Yeah, I think so. But it was really fun. I love Katie. She's a great main character. Female strength, you know. Ezra is so funny, really sweet. Yeah. Then finally, I read Akawar. It was good. But there's always one scene that I think of that I just, if you read it, you probably know which one I'm talking about. I'm just going to say war tent. Some questionable actions. Yeah, so this is again the third book in the Acotar series, so I won't talk about the plot because I don't want to spoil it, although I'm guessing like quite a few people have read them. It was good. The plot was really intricate, really interesting. The battle scenes were a bit lacking, personally, especially for like the main person's perspective. Didn't get to see much of that. Some of the logic was like, why would you do that? The characters were interesting, like the relationships got a bit stale, and there was okay, skip if you want to, because if you haven't read it, or if you don't give a shit, then you can stay. But there's a scene where more comes out, and I didn't know about that, and I'd been spoiled for quite a lot of things because it's such a big series that, like, obviously most things are out there, and I kind of accidentally stumbled across a lot of them, but I didn't know that Moore was actually gay, and so, well, or bisexual, that's a whole other thing. But I was so happy because she's like my crush in this, and so I was like sobbing during her thing. But it was so funny seeing other people talk about it as well, when they were like, yeah, like if a gay person wrote that, then it would have been like, yeah, I'm gay, what's up? Or like, I'm bi. This was the other thing, was there's a big thing about the way it was written and the way that it's almost a bit wishy-washy, where 1 minute she's saying things like, I'm attracted to like I only find attraction in females, and then the next minute she's saying, but I still find enjoyment in men. So that's a bit, you know, they're two different things, being bi and being gay. So, but that made me really happy. It wasn't my favourite of the series, but it was enjoyable. A lot better than Acotar than the first one. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, that's what I read. That's kind of it. Yeah, I think it was a pretty good reading month. My favourite book was Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn, or Akamath, but I think Sharp Objects because it was just a different level. It was so good. If you read one book from this list and you're confident that you're in a safe enough space with your mental health, I would highly recommend Sharp Objects. Amazing. yeah, so it was a really good month actually. That's that. Yeah, I hope you're all doing well. I hope life's treating you kindly, and yeah, go read your book. Boom. If you like this, make sure you like it. If you want to leave a comment, leave a comment. And if you want to subscribe, feel free to. Yeah, bye.